the only time I ever talk about prisons these days, it seems as though it's in one heck of a mess. The whole system is overloaded, it's overcrowded, there's not enough prisons, there's not enough guards, there's not enough hours in the day to look after everybody. You know, it seems as though very little of the prison service at the moment is doing what it's supposed to do.
Good evening, Mike. And unfortunately, yeah, every time I seem to come and chat to you guys at GB News, it's doom and gloom with the prison service. It seems that, you know, all aspects of our prison system is just crumbling away.
Yeah.
And you know, you've got overcrowding, you've got lack of staff, you've got poor support for staff, you've got violence, you've got drugs in prison. You know, you've got escapes. The list seems to be like endless. And, you know, since 2010, our prisons have been drained of resources. Sentences have gone up of prisoners. So, you know, this all has a knock-on effect. And what we're left with now is a very poor state of affairs where we've got something like 500 places left.
Yes.
And, you know, like Nick Hardwick said, you know, it is a tinderbox. There is a lot more violence these days than there was. There's a lot more drugs in prison. We know that there's allegedly gang members holding lids on prisons by dealing drugs and keeping prisoners quiet. You know, it's a very worrying time, because what prisons are for is to punish and rehabilitate. And as far as I can see, there's very little rehabilitation going on.
Exactly
and,
right.
You know, eventually these people will be let out into the community.
And the problem also seems to be, from Nick Hardwick's perspective, he's saying that the overcrowding levels and the sort of levels of violence and the conditions in general are very similar to what it was like before the Strangeways riots back in 1990, which I remember pretty well, where the whole prison was basically taken over, and it took quite a long time to get back control of it.
Yeah, I mean, the Strangeways riot started in the chapel and went on for quite some considerable time before the last five were got down from the roof. You know, they literally had to rebuild Strangeways prison because of the damage that was caused. You know, we are not far away. And again, then there was crumbling prisons, there was shortages of staff, there was no regimes, there was no rehabilitation. There was a lot of overcrowding, and we seem to have come full circle again. But, you know, this government since 2010 has just drained the resources out of prisons in one way or another. Right. And now, unfortunately, we're going to pay the price for that.
But one of the problems with prison spaces, I suppose, is that nobody wants a prison anywhere near them, because we've been told for quite a few years now, haven't we, that the government is building super prisons. It's going to build another prison somewhere up in the north of England. It's going to build another one somewhere in the Midlands. None of these things seem to have come to pass. Are there any prisons actually under construction at the moment?
I do believe there are one or two, but to be honest, you know, prisons are their own sort of town almost, you know, behind a wall. You know, there's a lot of prisons. I think that there's 4 or 5 main prisons in London in itself, and right. London is a built-up area. Right. So there's nothing to be feared from a prison if it's run properly and controlled properly and has all the security measures in properly. But, you know, this is going to cost billions of pounds. And even if with their building programme, the government reckon that they're still going to be 2,500 prison places short by March 2025. So, you know, it's a short-term problem. What we need to do is look at sentencing. You know, releasing prisoners early is not the answer, because we're releasing prisoners who are not ready to be released, who haven't got the support, who haven't got the homes, who haven't got the jobs, who haven't got the necessary kudos to be released. So we're releasing them out with nothing, unprepared, to go and commit crime again, to come back in. It's just farcical. The whole service is farcical, and I am very sorry to see it like that now.
And is it so far gone now, do you think, Vanessa, that it can't really be fixed quickly, and it certainly can't be fixed cheaply? I mean, what would you suggest they do?
I mean, No, you're absolutely right, because one of the things is staff. And, you know, we know that there's a problem with recruitment. The wages for a prison officer in London is something like £30,000. Well, you know, what can you do with that? You know, bearing in mind these people are going into very dangerous situations on a daily basis, and expecting to get assaulted. Nobody should be going into work to be expecting to get assaulted by prisoners. There's no quick fix. I think it's gone past that period. You know, I think there has to be a complete overhaul of our justice system. We lock up more prisoners in this country than in Western Europe. We have the worst reoffending rates than in Western Europe. So what does that tell you? It tells you that prison in its current form does not work. There needs to be a whole sort of multitask group discussion without the political bias that follows prisons, because no prisons minister wants to say, you know, let's look at shorter sentences, working in communities, that sort of thing, because it's not a vote winner. And that's the problem a lot of the time. Ministers don't want to put their heads above the parapet, so to speak.